What's up, boys? Welcome back to the React video. Today we have the boring strategy that won Fortnite's hardest tournament, which is the globals that Pigs and I absolutely fucking dudded. But we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about and we're going to react to this video right here. So let's get into it. Hope all you guys are having a great day. Let's get it.
Major 1 Summit. Almost no one predicted that Malabuka and Vico would win. This was one of, if not the hardest Fortnite lobbies of all time, with over 10 teams which could have easily won this FNCS.
True.
Malabuka and Vico were most people's top 5s, but the vast majority
I don't know how they won.
Sky and Scroll, Button Poyo, or Teeny and Shark to win. In fact, they didn't even think they would win.
It was like 50% I thought I was gonna win, but 50% I was like, someone else can just probably win as well. Like Shark and Teeny, after they were Uncom Wonky, I was like, I'm not winning no more.
To understand how they won this tournament, we need to see the strategies that allowed them to
I want to know exactly what they did. I don't even remember. I mean, I'm playing it.
I was on a Fortress, a draw spot that everyone says is kind of pants, but I actually think it's way more underrated than people think. Malabuka lands up top and he gets free damage onto players gliding, in this game knocking bolts out of the sky because the bus path was south to north, whereas Vico lands to the metal hut to the northeast, which similarly gives him access to more early tags and some metal, which the drop spot desperately needs.
Using bolts
the POI itself isn't good, right? We like have like 20 chests, I think, or something like that, right? But like, it's just the spot itself is so good because of how much damage you get. 5 minutes into the game, we had 200 damage every game.
But not only did they have a ton of options for Surge, they also had a ton of options to rotate from here. If they pull the zone, they can just use it as a Surge base like they did in game number 1. If they have a far zone, they can do what they did in game number 4 and stay in the Storm and then Rift. Or if the zone's not that far, they don't have to worry about looting too fast, as the drop spot's still relatively close to the center of the map. So in game 3, for example, they stayed in the drop spot until the second zone, and then when the third zone pulled to the east, you'll notice that they have a completely free rotate into the circle, as all of the teams are either in the center of the next zone already or are way in Storm behind them. Another really important thing about Fridges is the fact that when Malabuka is looting here, he's much higher than the vast majority of people who are lurking around him, which means he has way better sight lines onto them, and they can't really see him, which again, in a net Surge meta is massively beneficial. So every single game, they're getting damage almost instantly and then taking almost no damage on any of these early rotates, which is one of the main reasons why they took 0 Storm Surge ticks throughout this entire tournament. Malabuka and Vico are both insanely good fighters. However, they don't choose to take that many early game fights whatsoever, because in this Surge meta, if you get hit for a lot of damage, you're basically just dead. You can also just die, like in game number 4, for example. They jumped onto Epic Will and Pump and got the elimination, but got third party by Teeny and Shark, then meaning they had to reboot, and they had one of their worst matches where they ended up placing 18th. One of the only games where they actually got some early game eliminations was in game number 6, where Cole and Madden attempted a less than perfect lurk on them, and they just wiped the duo in a matter of seconds. But this doesn't mean that these guys don't fight. There was only one game where they didn't take a fight in the 5th or 6th zone, and that was the last game where they were trying to be more careful. Here, for example, in game number 5, they see a duo down below Surge, so they just overdrive grenade straight into their box and wipe them out. Getting elimination before the moving zones means you can have cat mats going into them. And this is really important because they use a ton of materials in every single endgame rotate. Every single time they rotate, Malabuka creates 4 or 5 boxes, which gives them a ton of space to look for further refreshes from. You can then see that 8th zone pulls over all of everyone's build, so Malabuka uses a ton of mats to tarp way deep into this zone. And this is a really good play because it now means that they have zone priority, so everybody behind them is going to use the overdrive grenades to fly past them, and then they can go late just using a single overdrive nade to get into the next zone. They actually end up staying in Storm using their chug jugs to ensure that they can do this rotate in 1, and this entire strat is possible because they have enough hard mats from getting that refresh earlier in the mid game. They also did something very similar to this later on in this game, where the 10th zone pulled completely max distance from them, and using the Flowberry effect, Malabuka slide tarps ahead of the rest of the lobby, which then allows Vico to turn around and get an elimination onto the teams who are slightly slower to rotate. However, the real reason for their success isn't even anything to do with their gameplay.
You remember when I said the only way to win with your teammates is to be gay with them?
What?
It sounds so funny, right? But the thing, it's true though.
The thing is, these two have so much fun that I genuinely think that's the reason for their success. 99% of their points from the weekend came from when both of them were still alive. There were no solo clutches. They basically just did everything together, even die.
It's like you're in kindergarten watching 2 kindergartners be best friends. I could never get tired of Mally. Like, genuinely, it's so much fun playing with him. Even now, like, I just want to keep playing the game. Bro, we were having the time of our lives.
Of course, these two are great individual players, but I genuinely think a huge percentage of their success comes down to the fact that they just have a lot of fun and their chemistry is fantastic.
That is true. You need
now,
a
lot
lot
of people were saying Sky and Scroll was the best team in this tournament. So to understand how Malabuka and Vico won, we need to look at their game plan and how it kind of went wrong. One of the main problems they had is that Veno and Curve would be landing to their south. Veno and Curve's entire game plan revolves around sneaking on players, so everyone just presumed that Sky and Scroll was going to get snuck on 1 or 2 games by Veno and Curve and die. I spoke to Veno before the tournament and he seemed very, very confident. However, about 20 minutes later, when I saw him being interviewed on the broadcast, he looked entirely distraught because it turned out he was actually getting surprise conned by Brazil's Choose and KBR. Getting contested 15 minutes before the tournament start seems like it probably just ruined their mental entirely, as they performed pretty poorly. Now, when Venom Curve went down in game number 1, it's very important to note that in these LANs, anonymous mode is turned off, so Sky and Scroll now knew they weren't going to get lurked on, so they knew they were pretty safe to repeat the strategy that won them Major 1, which was just to build a surge base on this hill north of Boulevard. Unfortunately, Venom and Curve were not the only ones who had plans to lurk on these guys, as the Umzo and Josh cut off their looting path by hiding in the bush right next to the hill.
What?
Thankfully, because the zone is pulling north, Sky's able to get a little bit of surge on the teams rotating past, and he's able to reboot Scroll since everyone has rotated north.
And they had a great game.
Whilst then rotating, they get stuck into a couple of fights where they're able to get a few eliminations. But because this has taken so long, Sky has taken a considerable amount of storm damage, and he actually dies to storm sickness almost a single tick before he gets into the safe circle, leaving Scroll left as a solo. 99% of players die here and get a very low point game, but Scroll is able to solo clutch up a 60-point match, placing 6th with 5 elims. By all accounts, this should have been a terrible game, but not only was Scroll able to do this in the first match, he solo clutched 136 points by himself in the first half of this tournament.
That's why
he was alive last in all of the first 4 games, and it genuinely felt like you could not kill this guy. I genuinely believe how Scroll played in the first 4 games of the summit is some of the best Fortnite that's ever been played. Now, re-looking at the leaderboards, Vico and Malabuka at this point were 102 points behind Sky and Scroll. Now, everyone will probably look to the fact that Sky and Scroll died in their last game to an OCE team off spawn and say, well, that's why Malabuka and Vico won. But I think that's very unfair. And that's actually because the game before this, they also had a 0-point game because they got W-keyed by Peterbot and Poyo. As Sky and Scroll are rotating in towards the zone, they just overdrive grenade on them and full fight them. Sky unfortunately gets stuck in a very awkward spot and gets quick deaded by Peterbot, and Scroll does a good job to try and survive, but eventually goes down to Shark. But when I saw this, I want to know how exactly they knew it was Sky and Scroll, since this was very clearly a play to kill the first place team. Well, they're lucky enough to pull the 6th zone, and when this happens, they start looking towards the hill that Sky and Scroll always based on during Major 1. So because they were rotating from the top of this hill, and the fact that they hadn't changed their skins throughout the entire tournament, clearly Peterbot and Poyo knew that this was Sky and Scroll. Pete and Poyo made a big play here to take out first place in the tournament, and it worked. This was Sky and Scroll's first 0-point game. This play to try win the tournament definitely helped them move up the leaderboard, as they were now in 3rd. However, this also now put Vico and Malabuka into position to win, as they're only 10 points behind Sky and Scroll.
I took a bathroom break in from game 7 to 8. I could have puked everywhere. I was so nervous. Oh my god, it was so bad.
They're gonna play spoiler here. What's going on? Hold on a minute.
Oh, he picked up.
He gets through an AR. He gets tagged up though.
He missed the pickup.
What did you guys say to each other when you saw Sky and Scroll go down in the Elam feed?
But I was freaking the f out. I was like, oh my god, Sky and Scroll died. And like Maddie looks at me IRL and says like, chill, take a breath, be calm. We can still lose.
Be calm. Yeah, I know.
Like, this guy was so calm. Well, I was dead nervous. I was dead nervous going into the game because I thought we were gonna get conned. But then I was even more nervous when I saw them die. Like, in my head, we like 99% won, but like we can still lose if Peter, drops to 20 or some shit somehow.
Sky and Scroll made a very rookie play of playing the same skin in every single match, and it got them killed. But this is not a mistake the veteran players make. Malabuka and Vico swapped their skins coming into this final match to ensure that they couldn't be targeted if anyone knew what skin they were wearing in the previous one. They still needed to clutch up at least 11 points to overtake Sky and Scroll, but there was still a chance that Pete and Poyo could also win. In the second half of the tournament, Poyo had clutched up not 1, but 2 victory royales. And he really made a run for it in the final match, almost clutching up a 3rd. But they only had 1 good half to their tournament, the same as Sky and Scroll. But this crazy run wasn't enough to overtake Malabuka and Vico's insane consistency as they made their 8th and final endgame. Malabuka's IGLing got them there, but it also kept them calm and composed when they had a championship on the line.
Be calm.
Whilst Vico dropped the most eliminations of any player in the tournament. He didn't have any flashy moments or big solo clutches. They didn't even win a match. Malabuka and Vico played 8 solid games of Fortnite when the other top teams failed to.
Me and Madly, we were just consistent. We made every endgame as a duo. We weren't forced to solo clutch, right? We either died as a duo or we,
This is a good video, bro. Because I actually didn't really know how they won, bro. Yo, Vico is that one type of player that is so passionate in the game. Like, bro, I have so much passion in this game, but I think actually has more passion, which is actually crazy. He literally deserves this, bro. Seeing him tear up and thank his mom and his family and absolutely insane, bro. But our time will come one day. If you did enjoy this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment. Let me know what other videos you guys want me to react to, and I will see you guys in the next one. Later.